I like it.
Oh no, he got me.
Oh no, he got me.
Bad baby.
Dude. Okay, sorry. Let's go.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Generations podcast. Today we're discussing the first 3 episodes of season 4 of the Mando. No, wait, this wasn't a TV show. This was a movie. The movie Mandalorian and Grogu. You have myself, Matthew Fox, the very tired, very grumpy to be awake, but still with us, Aaron, and of course, New York Knicks fan extraordinaire, along with myself, another huge New York Knicks fan, Alex. Alex, we haven't talked to you yet. So we're going to start with, I think, one of the most essential questions for sports fans right now. Do we want to face the Spurs or the Oklahoma? Oh, wait, no, sorry. Star Wars fans. What'd you think? Mandalorian Grogu, the movie.
First of all, Spurs. Second of all, the movie I felt was a really fun adventure. The way that I kind of see it is like, I don't necessarily think this movie advanced Star Wars into any crazy direction or like really introduced anything extraordinary, but like for kind of soft relaunching theatrical releases, and for bringing, these beloved characters out of the big screen, it felt like, an extremely well written and thought out just adventure that, we got to experience. And like, could it have just been a part of the TV series? Sure, but like, it was a lot cooler with the advanced graphics and the big screen, and I went and saw it twice in the first 16 hours it was out. So, yeah, I really, really overall enjoyed it. I would give it probably a solid 7 out of 10.
Nice, and that's and that is, forgive me for exposing our private chat, but that's a much better review than you were giving it after the first time you saw it. How much do you think is this because the second time you've seen it, it feels a lot better?
Second time definitely felt better. I think the first time I see any Star Wars movie, it's going to sound probably crazy, but my anxiety is super high because I'm like, my expectations are through the roof. It's a Star Wars movie. I need it to be good. And like, I'm so locked into every little nitty gritty detail. And then once I like know everything that's happened and I watch it the second time, I'm kind of just watching it for the enjoyment and the feeling and the emotions. And I was like, oh, now the anxiety's gone. I kind of know what's happening. This is a really fun little ride. I still have gripes, and we'll get into that. But I think that like it is, again, a really fun movie. It's not like Rogue One where it like really gets into some like really nitty gritty, interesting, some would argue plot hole filling things. But it's a fun space adventure with Mando and Grogu.
Nice. Aaron, you also saw it a second time, right?
Yes, I did.
How did that second time?
Wait, Aaron, what did you go with? A notebook, correct? And took thorough notes.
I went with a notebook. I have lots of notes here. I think it's like 6 pages, except I do have a couple blank pages because it was the movie theater and I accidentally double turned a page.
That's dedication right there, folks. Dedication.
That's fair.
Yeah. I've got lots of good things. I was so excited to see it for the second time.
Yeah.
I loved it the first time. So I was excited to like really get some notes and write down beats from the movie I really appreciated, as well as just some funny moments. So
nice.
Yeah.
So overall, second time just as good as the first?
Yeah, if not a little better. Because I mean, one thing for me is like I tend to forget a lot by the time the end of the movie comes around. Like I walk out and I'm like, wow, I remember it was really fun and really awesome, but I don't remember like as much of it as I would like to be able to talk about it in depth. So it's always helpful for me to like go and watch it again.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really glad it was really positive for both of you. And I think, I imagine that if I watch it a second time, I don't think I'm going to do it in the theaters, but when it comes to Disney Plus, I'll probably have a fun time doing it. I think I'm a little more negative on it just because, and some of those reasons I already talked about with Aaron when we did our quick response, and some of them I've thought about some more and have some more in-depth thoughts on. But yeah, overall, it feels like this is the response a lot of folks are having is whether you wanted more, like the discussion is often, did we want this to be more than it was? Should this have been a movie? But either way, with the exception of some haters, and right now, like, I mean, I've heard a lot of people calling this woke, which for a
What?
movie that had one named female character, I think that's kind of hilarious. But other
Whoa.
than that, online nonsense, like this is just a generally great movie. Other than that online nonsense, I think this is a movie that a lot of people are really enjoying, and I certainly think is a good way for us to be back with Star Wars in cinema, in theaters, and that more than anything else has me excited.
Yeah, and I think Matthew, like I want to clarify that like I'm not saying that this was like an amazing movie either. Like I think that my vibe was like for example, when I saw Force Awakens and The Last Jedi in theaters, I could not walk for a little while afterwards. I like couldn't drive my car for like 20. I had to calm down. After this movie, I got up and I was like, oh, that was fun. I smiled a lot of the movie. That was fun. But like it wasn't like it didn't feel necessarily like the weight of a general Star Wars movie has on me. It felt like I don't know, like again, like if it was just a movie I saw without the Star Wars name connected to it, probably like, oh yeah, that was fun. I don't know if I need to necessarily see it another few times, but I think that like generally positive, but like I think could have been better, or like could have just been a TV season.
Yeah. So where do we want to start? Alex, let's talk about some of the things you really most loved.
I mean, in my opinion, the Anzellans stole the show. That would be the Bobo
Really?
Frick little characters. Those were the best part of the whole movie, in my opinion. They were so funny to me. Like, I don't know. I thought that like their like Grogu's little side quest was made so much better by the Anzellans, just like their little ship, their little side comments. Just I don't know. I just thought they made me laugh more than anything else that happened in the entire movie. And just like I thought overall, what this movie, in my opinion, did the best was, George Lucas was so big on creatures and creating creatures and expanding the universe of creatures in Star Wars. And I feel like, other movies have introduced creatures and we have little scenes here and there, but this movie really, really leaned into as many different species and weird creatures and aliens. And I really appreciate that. That's a part of Star Wars I think that like has become a little bit more of a lost art. If you go outside of like the Clone Wars TV series and into the movies. And Aaron, I remember Aaron even said that like it kind of felt like an episode of the Clone Wars because it was so like, unique character. Like if you had told me 5 years ago that there was going to be a live action scene with Jabba the Hutt's son wrestling some aliens from Dejarik, I'd be like, huh? But if you told me it was going to be a Clone Wars episode, I'd be like, oh, that's par for the course. That's normal.
Yeah.
So it felt like they were definitely taking Clone Wars-esque vibes and putting it into live action. How successful that was, I don't know. The other part I really did like was I liked seeing Now Hutta live action. We'd seen it in animation a few times, and I liked seeing their take on it and how the Hutts are just in this little hive of a temple, and it feels so much more kind of fitting for what a Hutt would be in than like the Tatooine desert, but still had the vibes of Jabba's palace in a way. I don't know. Like I think that like the overall design of the set and the characters and the creatures were really fun. I think that what I felt was lacking more was just some of the emotional weight behind the plot and the use of some of the characters. Like I could have used a little more Zeb, maybe. I could have used a little more like Sigourney Weaver was being touted as a main name, and she was only on screen for like a total of 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I did an episode of the Film Board, which is kind of one of the main film review podcasts we do on the True Story FM network of podcasts, which this podcast is part of. And one of the comments I made there is that she felt like an NPC.
Yeah.
Her job was to give Mando the information he needed for his next mission and things like that, but she had no character. There was no there.
You could have inserted any other character into that spot and it would have been fun. And that's also how I felt, Matthew, honestly, about like Jeremy Allen White's voice performance. They distorted it so much and they made such a point to make Rada speak basic English, and it was just like that could have been anyone. Like it could have been anyone doing that voice. And I don't know. I feel like if you're going to make a Hutt speak basic, at least give it a little more weight and bravado. Otherwise, just stick to the Hutties.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And I feel like some of the complaints I've seen online are that they went for a celebrity casting for Rada the Hutt when they could have just as easily gone with someone who has more experience with voice acting, and that's really like their background. And they may have been able to bring more depth to the character than someone who's used to, live action acting and relies more on facial expressions to get their points across. I think that could have maybe brought that character a little more life and depth. I am not very familiar with Jeremy Allen White or his work, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's a great actor outside of this. Not saying that this was a straight up bad performance, but it wasn't my favorite. It fell a little flat.
It's a weird one. I'm probably the one who knows him most because of the three of us, I just mean, because I've seen all of Shameless, I've seen all of The Bear, which I think is two biggest works. So he's done some other things. But in both of those, he plays a young man struggling to escape the expectations that are put on him by his family, especially about what kind of person he's going to be. So in some ways, like he's playing the same role he's played a few times with some notable differences, to be sure. It's not, I'm saying it's exact, but I think part of it is just the writing for him was like, Aaron, you and I talked about this already, but like a Hutt saying, "I want to be my own man" numerous times.
Yeah.
The dialogue felt so emo. Like if you want, I think Jeremy Allen White is a great person to play a young emo adult trying to escape the life that's been prescribed for him by his family. But why you make that character a Hutt just makes no sense to me, because I think that's where it really struggled for me, is that the visual of him and the things he was saying just clashed so much.
It's real quick. It's so funny that you described that, Matthew, because it just clicked in my head that he also played Bruce Springsteen in the recent biopic, and he literally, his role was trying to escape the role that is prescribed for him. So maybe that's Jeremy Allen White's thing.
Yeah,
it's just escape the role that society has put on him. But I agree, and I think that also was like both viewings. I was like, he keeps saying, "Try to be my own man." Like, okay, one time, like I'm trying to get out from the shadow of my father and be my own man. Fine, that makes sense. But like he kept repeating it, and I'm like, all right, bro. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. There wasn't, just all we've ever seen of Rada was a little Stinky in the Clone Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we would have needed some other context about him to really like feel for the character. And they're almost trying to make us feel for him more deeply by having him constantly be repeating these emotional statements. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, it just felt a little over the top.
Well, and I think for me, especially the man part felt so weird. I think especially for me, the man part felt so weird because to me, that runs so contrary to what we were saying about expanding the universe so much and having all these different kinds of living beings that aren't just anthropomorphic. And like, in some ways, that's great about Rada. He's this is a character without legs. Like, he is not a human with a weird nose, that we used to get so much. But like, to me, a defining thing I think about from Star Trek, which I know is not, people try to compare these two all the time. I think they're both great, but it's why that stood out so much. In the sixth movie of the original Star Trek movies, The Undiscovered Country, Kirk and some other humans from Starfleet are talking to Klingons about, how people are supposed to act in the universe. And Kirk uses the phrase, I'm not sure it's even Kirk, I think it's other people from the Starfleet, whoever it is, they use the phrase human rights. And where the Klingons goes, listen to what you're saying, human rights. She describes it as a Homo sapiens only club. And not just because of that moment, but I think in later seasons, they talk about crimes against sentience instead of human rights abuses, because that's the point, is that they're not all human, and that we have to expand beyond just saying like, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a, human, but because we have all this other stuff out there. And so I think that's why, to me, at a time when we're pushing the bounds of this so far, he could just say, I'm my own person. I'm my own, like, some other word that I think is not quite so tied to being a human being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wondered if some of, like, the first time that he used that word, I was like, oh, LOL, it's kind of a callback to, the deleted scene from A New Hope where Jabba was supposed to be a man and Han Solo calls him a man. I was like, oh, okay, sure, maybe we're doing that. And then he said it like 2 or 3 more times, and I was like, no, this is a lot now. And one thing with Rada is he made some comment. I don't remember if it was to Grogu or to Din, but about like when I was Grogu's age, I was on my own. Tell me about that. What do you mean? Because last time I checked, we rescued you and brought you back to your dad. So then what happened?
Yeah.
Like I feel like they threw in a couple things to be like, oh, tragic backstory, but really didn't describe very much about it. So like
Right.
if you haven't seen the Clone Wars movie, you would have absolutely no context.
Right. And granted, we don't know what a Hutt's lifespan is. I
Mhm.
believe it's supposed to be significantly longer than humans. And so he lived, his father was killed in Return of the Jedi, but that's only like 8 years before this movie is set, 10 years before this movie is set. There's at least 20 years from, the end of the Clone Wars to 22 years, whatever it is, and until his father is killed. Maybe he was on his own before then. Maybe something else happened. We don't know. But yeah, it raises a lot of great questions.
I mean, they do say in the movie like Hutts live for hundreds of years,
Right.
which also is a little weird that in that time period he went from little tiny, teeny tiny to full grown like that. But I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know, and like also the Hutt, the whole Hutt like identity just felt a little weird because not only were they did he keep calling himself a man, but also like, do y'all notice the twins were never named and they have no name? I looked it up.
Mhm.
There's no name anywhere in canon for the twins, and it just feels like, again, like they're kind of like, okay, well, like, can we just define? Like, I don't know. I just feel like the Hutts are kind of not being as defined as they could be, like identity wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's certainly true. And I think that's it's funny. He's called Jabba the Hutt, I think, because on Tatooine, he is the only Hutt, and that's sort of who you mean. But, you're not going to call it when it's a whole bunch of Hutts hanging out. You're not going to say like Matthew the Fox and David the Fox and Annie the Fox. Like, those are just my family members.
Right.
Mhm.
Let me talk about another thing relating to names and how we call people. And then I don't want this to be just, critique. I want to talk about some of the positives too and some discussions we're seeing. But, and Aaron, I made this point on True Story. Aaron, I don't think I made it with you, but if I did, you can start shouting me down. If I have a friend named, wait, no, hold on. I had a way to describe this before. Okay. If, think about like, old timey names, and stuff like that. And like, if there's one Swedish guy in your town, then maybe you call him Jimmy the Swede or something like that. It just becomes the Swede or the Greek or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But then if a whole bunch of more of those people start showing up, they're probably going to not call him the Swede because there's more Swedes now. And also, like, I know him. I call him the Swede. Like, other people who've never met him before are probably not going to call him the Swede, because they might have met other Swedish people or whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
So for Grief Karga? That was his
Karga.
name.
Yep.
Yeah. So for Grief Karga to call this particular individual Mandalorian Mando, because he has that kind of relationship with him, made total sense. But at a time when Mandalorians are kind of back, like they're back on Mandalore, they're expanding out through the universe again. Every person who Din Djarin meets, calling him Mando, felt so weird to me, and kind of made the universe much smaller again in a weird way.
I feel like, yes, to an extent. Personally, that doesn't bother me as much because, I mean, one, Mandalorians, yes, they're back on Mandalore. Like Bo-Katan has her little squad, whatever, but they're certainly not the planet and the people they used to be. It's certainly not like a common thing. And even back then, like in the Clone Wars, it wasn't that common to see a Mandalorian fighter. That was only Death Watch, or,
Right.
We later find out that Din comes from the Children of the Watch. We don't know if that's spurted from Death Watch or if that was already separate. But I think, I don't know, to me it kind of makes sense because it's like he is the Mandalorian who's working as a bounty hunter. Like Boba the Fett is out. Boba the Fett.
Boba the Fett. Boba the Fett. Obi-Wan the Kenobi.
Boba Fett is out there, but he's not really working like as a bounty hunter. He's kind of a crime boss. And also there's the semantics where he's not really truly a Mandalorian. Like he wasn't raised to be one.
Right.
So I get where you're coming from, but also within the New Republic, I don't think there are other Mandalorians working with the New Republic necessarily. So I could see it being like, oh, well, he's Mando because he's the Mandalorian that helps us get our targets. And no one really knows him well enough to refer to him as anything other than that.
I mean, yeah, I think that what comes down to is that no one knows his real name. That it's Din
Yeah.
Djarin, and I think that like the only thing they have to go off of is Mandalorian. And based on what I have kind of garnered, is even with the little contingent, like Aaron said, not that many people see Mandalorians out in the world, and so like this might be the only Mandalorian that the twins deal with besides Boba Fett.
Right.
And it might be the only Mandalorian that like other people deal with. So they're like, oh, just Mando, because they don't know his name and no one else to call him. I don't know. It kind of bothers me the same percentage as when Obi-Wan calls Darth Vader Darth in A New Hope, because I'm like, bruh, that's like the honorary title. It's not his name. What are we doing? So it bothers me a teeny bit, but I don't think it bothers me as much as some other stuff in this movie did.
That's fair. I mean, and I get that like names change like that, and names become, it. A lot of people will refer to a pastor. They'll say, "Hey, Reverend," like as though Reverend is a title. It's not. It's supposed to be an adjective, in terms of how it's described. But yeah, I get it. Okay, so what are the things you guys noticed, especially on second time through?
The music, the Shikari theme. It's all I can think about. I see so many TikToks about it.
That Shikari theme we're talking about, that's the
it's the very techno-y music.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they
slapped.
When they fly up on Shikari and he's like, "Hey, drop me off." And just like flies out of the ship. And the way that they perfectly strung in whatever kind of like flute it is they use for the Mando's theme as he dropped out of the ship on Shikari was so cool. It did like his classes like do do do, whatever.
Yeah, it was excellent. I agree.
It was so well done, and I think about it a lot. I made my friend listen to it because I was like, girl, like trust. Mind you, we're sitting at her house waiting to go leave and then come back in 4 hours to catch her cheating husband. And I'm like, hey, listen, it's bopping, right? hey. And she's just kind of like looking at me and starts talking about something. And like, I'm just like bopping my head. And she goes, oh shit, I forgot you were showing me this song. Well, yeah, it's a vibe.
Damn.
That is kind of hilarious. Yeah, I was just like, there's that one the theme song from Mandalorian itself, the show, the bum ba da da ba ba ba. Yeah. The fact that they managed to put that in so many different times, but in so many different musical styles, and it didn't sound just like, oh, okay, it's that same thing. It sounded different every time. You'd like catch it and be like, oh, okay, hear what you're doing. It always fit the mood. It was always so perfect. I loved it.
I like Shikari a lot as a whole. I thought that was a really well designed and really fun planet. Like, also goofy as hell. The Martin Scorsese was the voice of the Adrenian, the four-armed monkey character that is giving information and is like cutting up floating meat. That whole little bit. I was like, bro, am I in New York right now? What's happening? Like, we got like a food cart, but someone's going for information. But like, I thought that whole interaction was really
do you remember the story with Martin Scorsese about why that meant so much?
No.
So he was one of the people who a couple of years ago was all like, these big franchises are killing movies. And like the MCU and Star Wars are not real movies and stuff like that. And I don't know why he wound up going from that to being in this movie, whether this is his sort of mea culpa of like, no, these are real movies, or if just like one of his grandkids was like, Grandpa, why aren't you in a Star Wars movie? Or like he lost a bet or something. I don't know what happened, but
that's funny as hell.
It just was kind of all the better for that, given he was so anti-Star Wars for a long time.
That's super funny, actually.
And it's great that it's not even just like a one-off character that says one line. Like that character had like arguably as much screen time as Sigourney Weaver's character.
And I would say a lot more character depth. Like I knew more about who he was, his motivations. He has a family.
I've got 4 little ones. They're smaller than him. Smaller than him.
He's concerned about them. Yeah, like
I don't want your credit. Stop saying that. Don't say that. Like, he was so funny. He was another
Yeah.
really funny character.
No,
and then
no
like
credits, I didn't give you information.
yeah,
Cover his tab.
yeah, right, yeah. And I also thought that I don't know. I went back and forth. I liked how they introduced what's the Imperial's name?
Janu.
Janu. Thank you.
Coin.
I like how
Lord
like,
Janu or Admiral Coin.
yeah, Admiral. Thank you,
Commander.
Admiral Coin. Yeah.
Commander
I like how
Coin.
they introduced him and like the whole idea that like salt is a high commodity here, and like it was
Yeah.
kind of a little political statement. That's the most woke thing about this movie, I guess. But that whole like interaction in the bar, and then like the epic fight, and then Mando walking out and dropping the salt in the glass, all of that I really thought was fun, a cool introduction. But then I like wanted to know more about him, and we got absolutely no further information about him, really.
Yeah.
It's like they went to his home and they raided it, and like that was the only time I got to see Zeb use the bow rifle in action, and I was like, I wanted more of that. And they pulled him out, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess we don't get to know anything else about Janu Coin. Like, I would have liked a little more deposition on him as a character, I think. But I liked his introduction and the mob like crime lord vibe he was giving on Shikari before the Jarek match, which I'll talk about. Does anyone have a comment on that before I get into the Jarek match?
I'll just say I definitely had the same thing. To me, that's where the movie really lost me, I thought, is that after they bring back Coin, I thought, okay, here's where it's going to become a wider movie, because now we're going to hear Sigourney Weaver talk about what they're going to do based on what Coin has told them, and Mando's going to get wrapped up in that mission somehow. And of course, we didn't get that. And I'm guessing that is supposed to mostly be just like a little Easter egg thing to help set up whatever's going to happen in the next season of Ahsoka. But I was thinking about it. This is the first time, if I'm correct, this is the first and only Star Wars movie where you never see a TIE fighter or the Vulture droid that is kind of like their predecessor. We have that tacked on space battle at the end, which makes no sense, with X-Wings fighting against Jabba's ships, but we never see a TIE fighter or a Star Destroyer or anything like that. And I think
I don't
the
think so.
only movie where that's true.
I'm like going through it in my head.
I mean, Solo definitely, Rogue One definitely.
Yeah, all of them, and episodes 1, 2, and 3 all have Vulture droids.
Yeah, not prequels. But
well, the prequels have Vulture.
You're
droids,
right, the Vulture droids. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I think the lack of space battle was weird, and also the lack of like you said, Matthew, there was an opportunity there. We know we're complaining about Sigourney Weaver not getting enough screen time. Give me like a cutback to like Mando was on his mission, whatever. Give me a cutback to Sigourney Weaver like interrogating Coin and like seeing her get to like act in the scene and get Coin to speak, and like it doesn't have to be a ton of the movie, but that then gives us like Sigourney Weaver can walk in and like read some of his file, that gives us backstory on who Coin is, gives Sigourney Weaver more screen time, gives us a little more depth through the story, like all in a not a lot of stuff. I don't know. I think that would have gone a really long way for me, because then suddenly it's like Coin told us everything. They're playing both sides. I was like, wait a minute, what? Yeah. So because of this random info that happened off screen, you're now pulling up in the detachment of X-Wings, even though earlier in the movie, Zeb made a express point to say, we're out of the jurisdiction of the New Republic. I can't call it an X-Wing attack.
Well, he said that on
Shikari,
not Nalhutta.
Nalhutta's also out of the jurisdiction of the New Republic.
Well, yes, but at least he wasn't talking about that planet specifically.
No, I know. I'm just saying like, that was kind of a goofy thing to have him say that line then have an X-Wing strike on a planet not in the New Republic occur 2 hours later.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. But let me talk about a positive thing is I did think that the Jarek fight was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. A little tiny bit on the nose.
Yeah, like, explain what you mean by that term.
Like, it was cool to see the exact aliens that we saw in the famous like chest.
Actually, wait, no, I forgot that term got explained in the movie. So ignore me. Sorry. Start that a bit again about the Jarek match.
Oh yeah. So the Jarek match I thought was a fun, cool little scene. It was fun to see all these aliens and creatures that we know from the Jarek, which is the chess style game that we first see in A New Hope that C-3PO and Chewbacca is playing. And for the eagle-eyed fans, if you noticed, there was a brief moment in the middle of that fight where the exact motion of like the long-necked alien picked up the chubbier one and put him down, just exactly the way that the move that Chewbacca made in New Hope was, which I was like, nice. That's awesome. That was a fun Easter egg. But in general, it was fun to see these like with all these different aliens in this kind of battle royale style thing. I don't know if it necessarily made a ton of sense to me. Like, is the game based off of the death match? Is the death match just a homage to the game? But it was cool visually to see it all go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like, Matthew, you're never big on monster movies. Or never is a strong word, but that's not typically your favorite style, is like the monster of the week type thing. I do love a monster movie.
Yeah.
Especially in Star Wars. Because, like, you know, quote unquote monsters or aliens are such a huge part of Star Wars. And I just think it's really cool to see. It's really fun. That's something I always enjoyed in the Mandalorian TV show, is when they do have like monsters of the week. I do find, like, you know, I think it's harder to watch like the dragon snake fights than like the Dajaric matches.
Yeah. No, I think that's it. And I think like when the Dajaric match was 10 different kinds of weird alien animal type things. And that's to be clear, like a sentient being that just looks monstrous to us, I'm all for.
Yeah.
It's the kind of like non-sentient animal where like it's not evil, it's just hunting and eating and doing what it wants to do. And humans are, whenever sentient beings have tortured it to make it attack, like I just don't get much out of seeing that creature getting killed. And but I think sure in the Dajaric match, fine. I wish they'd had half as many because I think we could have concentrated on them more. But I think having the ones we did, that was fine. It was then that we had them monster attacks like in the various locations we were in. And then there was a monster before the fish dragon and then the fish dragon. And then that's just when it gets to be like, come on, like be more. That to me is when it just feels like, come on, you be more inventive, please find something.
I also found the snake dragon to be the worst CGI in the movie, in my opinion.
Really?
To me, the snake dragon
real
looked
bad.
most fake to me.
Yeah,
like the rest looked pretty real, but the snake dragon just looked. It was like here's Pedro Pascal, face and all, and then he is 1/50th of the screen, and then in 1/2 of the screen is his very obviously CGI character. All I'm saying is that if Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean can hold up 20 years later, we can do better than the way that snake dragon looked.
That's interesting. I actually really liked how it looked. I mean, of course, it's obviously CGI. It's not a real thing. But I really liked the detailing of the skin. I thought it was cool that it was like nearly translucent, but just like and the way the teeth moved. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but when it snarled, like the teeth and the lips moved like separately, unlike the way that like a human or animal here on Earth, unlike the way our teeth and lips move, which I thought was really cool. But I guess I can see what you're saying, where it's like when the live action actor is such a small part of the screen and then you take so much of the wide angle view and fill it with a CGI character, it's harder to, I guess, believe maybe.
I think that, like, I'm not gonna get too deep in the weeds here, but I think that what just kind of bothers me sometimes about, and I've noticed this in Mandalorian actually show too, is that like they do rely a lot on like CGI characters, and like that's obviously part of it. But I look back to like Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, where they had the basilisk, and they made a gigantic life-size head and top of the torso of that snake for moments when Harry was fighting the snake. And that was, again, years and years ago, likely on a smaller budget than Lucasfilm had to make a Star Wars movie. So I'm not saying that like it has to be perfect, but if you can make practical effects, and that's what makes Star Wars great in the past, and we've seen that happen in other franchises with a large snake and it was successful, I just feel like that would have gone a really long way to have like a practical, even just head and maybe some CGI for the outward wide scenes. I don't know. It just felt off to me.
Yeah. And I would just say, I think for me, I don't have the, of course it's going to be CGI in this movie, especially because so much of this movie was practical.
Yeah.
You know, because Grogu wasn't CGI, because so many of the alien type things weren't. It just felt like a waste to me that so much was CGI. But
yeah.
Anyway, so a lot of this we're kind of retreading territory we've had before, and that's my fault. So I want to hear more from you all. Like, what are other things, Aaron, in your notebook? What are the things that you noticed watching it a second time? Where, as you said, Alex, it wasn't just the anticipation, it wasn't the anxiety, but now it's a lot more like, okay, I know what I'm going into. Let me really pay attention and see what's awesome here, or it's not awesome.
Well, let's real quick talk about the opening scene on, that snow planet where he takes out that one initial commander and we see a funny Star Wars person, which is just a human with a funny nose.
I thought about that when Matthew said that. Yeah.
Yeah. We were both thinking about it. We made eye contact to
Yeah.
do it. I thought it was hilarious the way he off-roads in that ATST. Like, yes, they're made for off-roading, but I don't think they're made for off-roading directly down a cliff.
Yeah.
Especially 20 years after they were produced. Like, I was like, oh my God, brother does not give one fuck. He's like, hop on, baby. Let's climb down a cliff. Like, responsible father where? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that the opening credit music was really beautifully done. It was a classic or a perfect blend of his classic theme song while also bringing in a few newer features so that the score still felt unique. I loved it was sunset and they were coming in and the
Wait, Aaron, can I comment on the opening scene real quick?
Of course, yeah, please do.
I just want to say that opening scene is, if y'all remember, that I said that they showed us a whole scene at Star Wars Celebration. That is the scene they showed us.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, of course it's the opening scene. But I felt that it was that was just a here's how badass Mando is kind of scene, and I enjoyed that. But I don't know. I feel like that was really the most Empire remnants we saw. We saw stormtroopers at the palace, sure, but I would have liked to see a little more of that. I liked seeing the old AT-ATs and the old that was a very cool visual scene, and it was both action packed and funny. Like Grogu bang on the helmet, yo, dude, we gotta go.
Good.
We gotta go. And he's like, nah, bro, I gotta blow this guy up.
Gotta get the shot.
And then Zeb's like, it works better if they're alive, dude. What are you doing? That was all very funny. I thought a fun opener. Even when all of the local leaders they're take up arms and they're pointing the guns and the Mando walks in and they all drop it and the one lady just points to the door. That sent me. That
was great.
Sent me.
He's like, cool. Tips his imaginary hat.
Yeah. So I thought it was a really fun, successful opening scene. I would have kind of liked some of that energy more in the movie. So sorry, continue with your list. I just wanted to comment on that.
No, thank you. That was the goal of my list, was that it spark conversation, not me just read it off.
Sorry. Can I say one more quick thing?
Absolutely.
Aaron, I'm curious what you think about this. I did not like that Mando kept telling Grogu, heel, like he was a dog.
Yeah. I was
that
like, what
pissed me off.
I mean, I thought it was a little bit funny, but also he's not a dog. It's a little funny.
A tiny bit funny, but he did it multiple times. And I'm like,
Grogu, heel,
is
heel.
Your partner in action. Don't just tell him heel. He's also a force-sensitive warrior who's smart as fuck.
So let me describe where I'm coming from. Give me a second. Come here, baby. This is my love.
Hi, dog.
This is my baby. She is perfect and she is beautiful and she
What's
doesn't
her
like
name?
being picked up. Her name is Lana.
Hi, Lana.
She's my favorite girl in the whole wide world, and she does not respect me for shit.
This is a dog, by the way, just to remind people that this is primarily radio, not TV.
Sorry.
Oh yeah,
that's
kind of autumn with me. Doesn't really.
I lifted up my dog. She doesn't listen for shit. So I really felt like going and doing an adventure with your favorite person or someone you trust so much, and then they just don't fucking listen. It's get over here, because you're responsible for them, but to me, of course she's a dog, she's an animal, but she's one of my best friends. So I found that, I think maybe that's why I read it as a little more funny, because I say heel to a being that I consider to be a close personal friend rather than just an animal. And she doesn't listen, similar to Grogu. But yeah, it took me off guard the first time. I was like, oh, hey, that's your kid, bro. But yeah, I thought it was funny.
No, it definitely is. And as the father of a 10-month-old, I certainly have some level of understanding of what that's like, And I think we're in this really interesting place. And I'm really glad actually I rewatched season 3 of Mandalorian, because I think there's a part of you that's like, oh yeah, I mean, isn't it hard to bring your, toddler with you when you're on death-defying missions? And generally the response is, don't bring your toddler.
Yeah.
And clearly Grogu is in kind of a weird in-between state where he in many ways is like the emotional and social maturity of like a big baby, of a toddler, but also has a lot of powers to defend himself. But we remember that in The Mandalorian in season 3, he's told by the armorer, okay, now he's not just a foundling, he is part of your clan. It is your job to take him with you on your adventures. And so to me, like that's what gives some explanation for why. Because there are definitely some moments where you're like, why, when you're going to have to climb down a cliff in a stolen ATST, do you have a baby with you?
Yeah, for real. Also, something that popped in my head when you were just saying that, and Alex said heel, is that people teach their dogs a command like heel to keep their dogs safe. Right. It is not necessarily to control the dog, but it's so that your dog can come to you and be by you in case something's going on. There's something that's a danger to you, your dog, like you just don't know the area. Like it's very much like a safety mechanism.
Yeah, and so I could play in traffic, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, like don't cross the street without holding my hand, toddler. Like,
yeah, but are you gonna say heel to your child?
I'm not gonna have a child, but who knows?
You know what I mean, though. Like,
yeah, I do.
Like if I had a child and one of y'all saw me said heel to the child, you'd be like, "What are you doing?"
I mean, I'd laugh, but
oh my god. Anyways,
moving on from the heel conversation. I think it's hilarious that they gave him first of all, I think it's hilarious that they have a deck of cards of Imperial ex-officers. I think it's doubly hilarious that there's a card for someone that just doesn't have a face. Why bother make a card? Like
our Ace of Staves.
Our Ace of Staves, Commander Coin. I'm like, it's just a blank card. How is that supposed to help Mando at all? And you're just handing it to him like it's going to.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. He's like, we don't know if he's alive or dead. No one knows who he is or what he looks like. But here is a card with a silhouette on it.
Good luck. I was like, what? What?
A small little thing, but given how much they've said about Sabacc, the game in, Sabacc is the main card game in the Star Wars universe. That's been true forever. I didn't really love, at first I thought it was an Ace of Spades. And I was like, really? You're taking like just a direct human world card? Ace of Staves, at least. I mean, like it's an ace as though it's from a 52 card deck, but it's staves, which is more from like a tarot deck or something like that. It still, though, felt very like that sounds an awful lot like a real world creation, instead of Star Wars should have something fundamentally different. Not a huge deal, but it just threw me for a second.
Yeah, it was an interesting departure from the typical like hollow discs that we see bounty hunters usually use to find their targets. My next note in here is after we meet Rada, and it just says lethal belly flop, LMFAO. Like, why is that his kill move? Is belly flop? Like, in a video game and every character has their like one shot move. I feel like that's Rada's. It's just belly flopping on his opponent, and they're just cooked.
And it was funny to see him move. Like, I couldn't really process how a Hutt was gonna like be a gladiator fighter. I know he would like roll his body to get closer and like.
I did not see the rolling coming. It took me by surprise the first time. I was like, whoa.
And the body slam was hilarious. And like he tried to do it to Mando, and Mando was just like, also like I understand that like Beskar is like really hard. That still gotta hurt though, bro.
Like a bitch, yeah.
Yeah, the movement of him actually kind of makes sense again as a toddler. Like my kid now can kind of crawl. But for a while, he was doing this earthworm thing where he would just scrunch his legs up and then push his chest forward, and he would roll a lot as part of his movement. So, like, I got that. There was a moment where I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. This isn't Mando the show," because in Mando the show, remember, it can be pretty gruesome at times. And when he did that first body slam, I was like, "There should be a red smear down his chest." But this is a PG-13 movie. I don't think we're going to see a red smear. We should see a red smear. We didn't see the red smear. So,
yeah, it was a surprisingly not bloody gladiator ring. There was actually surprisingly, I feel like, little to no blood in that movie.
Almost none. Yeah.
Almost none. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the kid movie vibe, I guess.
Mando getting chomped on. Let's see.
And also,
else
he
do I
got
have?
chomped on by that giant thing and only had a tiny little.
For real.
Well, I think because that's the point. Is that,
that good.
yeah,
One
it
of
was
the
only
Beskar.
like getting through a little part between the two Beskar pieces.
That's fair. That's fair. And the Hut movement, though, I will say that another thing I really enjoyed in this movie was at the end the Hut fight, the twins versus Rada as they're
The
just,
Hut on Hut violence.
yeah, the Hut on Hut violence was something I never knew I needed in my life. But I'm not gonna lie, that was so fucking funny to watch. It's like a bunch of earthworms
It
fighting
was
each other
so
in the dirt.
funny. It's so funny because it's like here's Mando and Embo having like the bounty hunter face off, like blow for blow, lick for lick, like just so cool. And then like Rada and his aunt and uncle are just like sticking their hands in each other's mouths and like poking each other's eyes, like
And they're like rolling over each other and like it was just like body slamming. And I'm like, what is fucking going on?
literally what's happening.
Well, and I will say I liked the moment when the three of them are fighting and the woman twin, who you're right, are not named, is like, hey, guys, we're over that thing, that trap door, and it's loosening. And the two guys are just like, no, fuck it, we're gonna fight. And she's like 3 different times, guys, we're going to fall. And then of course they fall.
Well, eventually she's like, we're gonna kill us all. And Rada goes, yeah, that's the fucking point, bruh. Push his head down
Literally.
into the ground and like, and then of course Grogu is just like, yeah, bro, here you go. God floating Rada into the air.
Mind you, Rada had no reaction to that. Like, I understand he met Force users in the Clone Wars, but I don't feel like he would remember well enough to be that casual about it.
Yeah. And
But who knows?
yeah. And like, I don't know. He like, yeah. I will say though, the second time I watched it, I did think that he was an excellent age generation, like from what he looked like as a baby. I could totally see the resemblance. Like I was like, okay, that was well done, aging him up.
Something that geeked me was when they were like, here, we have an image of him, but it's from a long time ago. And it's just baby Stinky.
Bro, I was like, there ain't no way this is your only photo
Okay.
of him.
Here's my old person moment. What does geeked me mean? Is that a positive or negative term?
Positive.
Positive,
When you
yeah.
geek out, it's like when you geek out, when you like nerd out over something. I'm geeked.
Oh,
Okay.
not how I'm using it necessarily,
Wait,
but
You're
yeah.
geeked. You're excited. It made you feel.
Yeah, excited. It could also be like, I mean, drugs. That's not how I'm referring to it, but yeah. It can mean a lot of things, like a lot of words for Gen Z.
Cool.
Another positive, I think sure Aaron appreciated this, was the hodgepodge droids.
Yes. You know, I'm glad you brought this up because I thought it was really cool that even though like Mando, beat some of his droid fears, it's like the Hutt's army are literally decommissioned Clone Wars droids.
That have
For the
been
most
reassembled in some places. Like
Yeah.
they had the super battle droids were just as is, but then like if it was a normal battle droid, they were attached to like there was like a K2S2 head on some, there was a battle droid head on some.
Yeah.
They were like weird Frankensteins of droids.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I liked the starfighters they used too on Nal Hutta. I thought those were pretty cool. I'd
They
not
look-
seen something like that before other than Bosk's ship.
Well,
Yeah, like even though I was saying before that I wish we'd had more of a section about fighting the Empire, dealing with the Empire, it is also really cool to see like these aren't just like people with blasters. Like they have their own armies, they have their own fighter groups, you know?
the little ships they use on how to look to me like the mining guild ships we saw in Rebels when the Rebels went to go get the gas and they encountered the Purgils and there was the little ships. I think those are the same ships.
Okay.
So I
They-
think they're decommissioned mining guild ships that like the Hutt's really just like repurposing everything.
That's fair.
Which, you know, again, all of it I thought that was all really fun and cool and weird. Like the little droid army they had.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on an hour, so let's just kind of go rapid fire. Aaron, what are some more of the things on your list?
Right. Okay. When they're during the Djarik match and they go to break out and Mando gets Grogu out and I just wrote fuck a door because Mando just pried that cage open. He was like, "Wah,
Yep.
baby. After that I wrote you know how there's that baby Rodian that almost gets crushed, but then
Yeah.
the like parent takes it away, and then there's an empty bassinet. Grogu put that bassinet in sports mode,
Yeah, that was so
like
strange.
a croc. He put that little strap down, and it was go time.
I was like, why do they make bassinets that go at the speed of a starfighter? Like,
So funny, so funny. Zeb's little finger shake
yeah.
Mhm.
when Rada tries to get away, and then Zeb kind of stops him, and he's like, huh, "Can't blame a guy for trying."
Yeah, and then he just gave up. Like Rod was trying to get away, and, like fighting against it the whole time. Then once he was in the ship, he was like, "All right, I'm gonna help you guys now." I was like, "Bro,
Yeah.
you are the most weak-willed motherfucker I've ever met in my life." Like,
Also, the way they had him strapped up got me. That was so fucking funny.
yeah. And Amanda goes, "I have to let you down now because the ship's too bumpy." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, you're just gonna let him down?" And then he's just like, "All right, I'm gonna help you."
Yeah, yeah. I was like, damn, they really put a Hut in air jail like he was a baby or a puppy. I thought that was pretty
Baby
funny.
or puppy. I literally texted Matthew and Aaron, y'all, after the movie. Like, one of my first thoughts was, if you had told me in the year of our Lord 2008 that Stinky the Hut was going to join the New Republic, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Also, how about the random like the random creature that lived out by the bayou that happened to make a little antidote to cure Mando? What in the Star Wars convenience was that?
Oh, Deliverance Fishman. I have no idea why he didn't have a space banjo. That man
Should have.
could have had a space banjo.
He had a rocking chair. He's like, "Me thinks you're the one that stole my fish," after throwing a rock at the frog that ate Grogu. That entire sequence was so weird to me.
Yeah, it was pretty kind of random, kind of funny.
And he doesn't help the bounty hunter who could have paid him. He goes, "Nah, this little baby I've known for 3 seconds who stole my fish. I'm gonna set you up."
I'm gonna help this baby out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we just never see him again. All right, Bayou Bob. Like, what's going on here?
Bayou Bob for the
Bob.
win for real.
Yeah.
Second time around, I did count all of Rada's abs. There were only 10.
Oh,
Despite my
we were
name
going with
today
19.
being his 19th ab, there were only 10 abs. They were much larger than I initially anticipated.
And they were like humans have like 2 rows of abs on the left and right side. He was like mono abbed, right?
I think it was pretty mono. I was counting them as 2 because there
Okay.
was a bit of a distinction. At least I thought. I don't know. I also had a couple shooters Tito's on my second round through, so I wasn't 1000% locked in, but I was still pretty locked in.
Okay.
I've got to know how fucking tall Embo is, because I didn't know he was like 8 feet fucking tall.
Yeah. Yeah, he towers. He was towering
was
over the Mandalorian. which was
He
great
just
to see.
aura farmed this entire film. It was so cool. Like, people are complaining he didn't get enough screen time, this or that, da da da. But it's like, I think they did the character perfectly, because I think one thing we've talked about with this movie, it was the struggle with like a Hut using basic, and like Embo does not use basic. To my understanding, his species doesn't carry the capacity to use basic.
Right.
And so I think keeping him in a more smaller, mysterious, but menacing kind of a character was pretty funny. And I thought was pretty cool. I thought it was funny how Mando just blew up his fucking roof to get out an op.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was crazy. And also, I would have liked to spend a little more time on Navarro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If nothing else, and I mentioned this on the True Story podcast, but I want to say it again here. Grief Karga was such a huge part of those 3 seasons of Mandalorian,
Mhm.
and in the story was a huge part of Navarro. Like,
Yep.
he was the High Magistrate
Mhm.
and all that. Carl Weathers, the actor who played him, passed away, and it didn't have to be a big deal. We didn't have to have a conversation about him, but I thought it would have been a really nice thing if, we know Navarro puts up statues to people
Yeah.
who help them, like they did with the IG droid. And for them, if he just is walking in Navarro and he walks past and maybe spends a moment looking at a statue of Grief Karga, memorializing him, it would both like make complete sense in the movie, but also be a nice way for the movie to note, like, yeah, an actor who's a really big part of our story has passed away, and that's sad.
I agree.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
I have a crazy note that I just found through a little Googling. The dragon snake we see in this movie, the crazy thing I was complaining about the CGI, we've seen 2 other times in Star Wars, apparently. The dragon snake, I forgot this happened in the Clone Wars, but when Obi-Wan and Who's our boy who falls in love with Asajj Ventress?
Oh, Lux Von Terry.
No. Who falls in love with Ventress? The Jedi. The crazy.
Quinlan Voss.
Thank you. When Quinlan and Obi-Wan go to Now Hutta, if you remember that one episode,
Yeah.
and they find like Jabba's mom or something, like they end up Obi-Wan fights a dragon snake in the swamp. And also
That's right. Yeah.
And also, this is crazy, Matthew, get ready for this. They have later, they have retconned or named whatever. Do you remember on Dagobah, the little bump you see in the water before R2 gets swallowed? That is now being called a dragon snake by Lucasfilm.
Sure.
But I wish you could all see Matthew's face right now.
I mean, go to the YouTube. I'll make that exactly a clip that we'll put on the TikTok. The Ethical Panda. I think it's
that's
Ethical Panda
crazy, but they're going to
like
name that the creature that swallows R2 and spits him out is a dragon snake now. So I guess they live in all swamp planets.
To me, that's like 30 years later going back and saying that the old man who's with them on
it's Rex.
Endor is
Rex.
Yeah, actually that's Rex.
It's Rex. 100%.
Whatever.
100%.
Got to be.
Has to be Rex.
Clearly. All right. Well, this has been great. I want to wrap up quickly. We're going to do a feedback episode next week, which is going to be with feedback both from the mall show and from this show. So if you have feedback, this movie, so if you have feedback on either one of those, please let us know and we'll discuss it next week. But for now, either of you, any last comments or questions you wanted to post?
I wanted Grogu to say something.
Okay.
I wanted Grogu's first words to be in this movie. I thought there was an opportunity for him to say something multiple times, and I'm sad they didn't do it. That's my last take.
That's fair.
That's fair. I thought they might do it. I didn't think the movie was necessarily lacking when they didn't, but I also thought that they might have him speak.
It doesn't be anything crazy. It's just like Mando or Dan, something small.
Yeah.
Dad.
That I would have cried.
Yeah. My life would have ended then and there. My final comment, am I the only one who thinks it's fucking weird that the twins not only sleep on their throne, but just sleep together?
Yeah, I also thought that was very strange.
Like, y'all are a little too attached at the hip. Like,
quite literally.
I don't know. It's giving swamp. It's giving Southern Alabama ? Like,
oh my God.
I did have a moment of wondering, like, I guess I'd be more okay with this if they're sort of an asexual, like breeding, like, slugs don't have sex, as far as I understand. They just do the kind of like splitting kind of reproduction. That I think is non-sexual, though every slug scientist on our listenership is now yelling at me, so maybe I'm wrong. But like I thought that they have an asexual process, and so maybe that's something for the Hutts or not. Sleeping in the same bed is not a thing, but who knows? So Jabba certainly had all those weird feelings for Leia in a bikini, so we're just not going to think about it. Now that I've reminded you all.
I mean, we saw the Hutts all like, I don't know. There was that one moment where man was walking through and there was three Hutts kind of real buddy close to each other. It was a little sexual.
And Zero the Hutt certainly had strong feelings for Size Noodles.
Yep.
Before she.
Yep. So the Hutts have a libido. I don't really know how that works with the twins, though. You're right.
And on that family-friendly note, we're going to call this a podcast. Thank you all so much. I'm Matthew Fox. This has been the Star Wars Generations podcast. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, please hit review, please hit share, please do all the things you can to help get more people onto the bandwagon listening to us. They can also check out my Superhero Ethics podcast, where we're going to be talking about The Boys pretty soon, if we haven't already. We have lots of other awesome stuff coming up, so please check all that out. Of course, please check out all the other great stuff that Alex and Aaron are doing. Alex, this is the last time I'll be able to say is just a normal photojournalist, because as of tomorrow night, the night after I'm recording, Alex is going to be receiving a Pulitzer Prize for photojournalism.
Well, technically, I already received it a few weeks ago, but yeah.
He's part of a team. Okay, so he Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, also nursing school graduate Aaron, coming soon to a hospital or mental institution or something like that near you. Mental institution as a caregiver, not as a patient, just to be clear.
You never know.
I mean,
I knew that was coming.
Certainly
I knew
both.
you were going to say that.
I mean, that was the thing. I knew that if I implied that you were going to go there as a patient, you would yell at me. But if I said only as a caregiver, you'd say maybe not. So who knows?
Funny.
Any of us could wind up there as a patient. Mental health is a thing. It's important. We are so far off the track. Thank you all so much for being a part of this. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our fans. Thank you to Star Wars. Thank you to Dave Filoni, to all the important people. Good night, Moon.
Stay classy, New York City.
Yeah. We are New York, and we play basketball. We're here to win them all. We are the New York Knicks.
Rod of the Hutt has won. He's now free to die.
Incredible.
Defense!
Defense.
Defense!
Defense.
And we're out.
That was amazing. Hour on the dot.